For more on that story, I'm now joined in the studio by our Europe editor, Armen Georgian. Hi, Armen.
Hi, Angela.
We'll take a look at the impact on Europe in a minute. But first of all, maybe you can tell us, he's won, but Dutch politics is usually about coalitions. Is he going to find coalition partners? Will he be able to form a government?
Well, other political forces are hinting that they're open to working with him. The mainstream conservatives are certainly not ruling that out, but party leader Dilan Yeşilgöz is saying that she wouldn't want Wilders to be prime minister, but perhaps she'd be okay with some other deal where he perhaps has an important job in government, but where she can keep him in check in some way. That's certainly one possibility. And then we've also got the new Social Contract Party, whose leader, Peter Omtzigt, is also not ruling out working with Geert Wilders, while also saying that any such talks would be difficult. So it's obvious that such a right-wing coalition would be a very difficult thing to negotiate. That would be a coalition of the VVD, the NSC, and the PVV. But that's not the only scenario. There's also another coalition scenario that's been talked about of a centrist coalition led by Frans Timmermans. So there are lots of options, at least on paper now, but the actual negotiations are clearly going to be very tricky and could last quite some time.
So, he might not end up leading a government, but however you look at it, he has won an election very convincingly. Incidentally, the European Union, a spokesperson has said they continue to count on Dutch participation. But this is a bit of a trend in Europe now, these far-right leaders doing extremely well in elections. Is there a message Europe should be heeding there?
Well, what's happened is, the old sort of cordon sanitaire around far-right parties has dissolved, basically. So there's now quite a few precedents for a right-wing, far-right coalition. In Italy, the Brothers of Italy are in an alliance with the League Party, which is essentially a far-right party, often thought to be one. In Finland, you've got the Conservatives that are in a government with the Party of the Finns, which is also considered to be a far-right party. In Spain, the right and the far-right were only 7 seats short of being able to form a majority after the last elections in September, and they actually do have some alliances at the regional level already between the PP and Vox. So this whole thing is well underway across Europe. Why is it happening? Partly because of electoral maths. So you've got the traditional big parties, like the sort of mainstream conservatives and socialists in France, Spain, and Germany, for example. They've seen their share of the vote decline over the years, so it's been shrinking. That means a fragmentation of the political scene, so coalitions are becoming much more necessary. And the other thing that's happened is some of these far-right parties, they've toned down their rhetoric. So just before an election, they will go easy on the culture wars, if you will. So we saw this with Geert Wilders as well. He was suddenly not talking so much about ending mosques and things like that, which he'd previously talked about. He was trying to pivot to more conservative voters who are worried about immigration. In Slovakia, we saw the return of a populist strongman, Robert Fico, a few weeks ago. He also did a similar kind of pivot, but to pocketbook issues, inflation, cost of living, away from the more culture war type things. So it's a combination of all that, which I think has led to these coalitions, which include far-right parties. But when you say a trend, Angela, we have to bear in mind that it's not a completely linear process, because there's one very important counterexample which just happened in Poland, where after nearly 10 years in power of Law and Justice Party, we suddenly saw a surge in the pro-European electorate with parties that could still, in theory, form a coalition of the opposition pro-European coalition. They clearly had they had a lot of support in the Polish election. So it's not a one-way process, a one-way direction in Europe, let's say.
OK, thanks for that, Armen. And of course, as you say, could take months before there is a government formed in the Netherlands.